It's 8:01 a.m. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Whitley County Council meeting of Wednesday, September 4th. If we would, please, let's start by honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start, actually we will close the meeting and open the public hearing for the Whitley County 2020 budget and the solid waste budget. So in conducting the public hearing this morning, we will provide the opportunity to anybody that is here to come forward and speak either on behalf or against any and all parts of the budget as they have been presented and as they set at this time. We will limit each person's time to 3 minutes. If you speak for a group or a large organization, we will give you 10 minutes, and we will set aside 1 hour for this public hearing to take place, and after that it will be wrapped up. So if you want to speak, don't wait until the end. Come on up and take your opportunity. With that being said, I would call anybody up that has something to say about the budget at this public hearing. Come forward, please. Yes, ma'am. Come up. Yep, come on right up and identify yourself and who you're with, and actually your address too, please.
Whitley, County Assessor. My home address?
Oh, you can use the address here if you like.
20 West Van Buren Street, Government Center. I was just wanting to know about the 85%, if they were going back to the 85% for the chief deputies with the new salary ordinance going forward, if that was going to be brought back or how they were going to handle that. Maybe you're going to address that and my question will be answered.
I would tell you that we are very excited about the fact that we've got WIS involved with our process again. It's taken a lot of workload and a lot of issues off the table for us where we're not necessarily experts on what the pay is across the field for our county employees, so we're excited that we've got them back involved. We are going to be pretty forthright in looking at their recommendations and going with what they have suggested where we should be. We're excited about it this year, and the fact that even all the numbers that they've provided to us are real-time numbers as far as taking into consideration cost of living and all the other factors that they come up with these numbers. So we're excited about that, and I would share with you that we're probably going to stick pretty much to along the lines of what we paid an expert to give us recommendations on. So that's kind of where we're at there.
Okay, well, the question was asked by the Chief Deputy Assessor to me in looking at the analysis. You know, if there's an across-the-board given that proposes an increase for the department head salary for 2020, then will the chief deputy, if they go back to the 85%, will that 85% of the chief deputy's salary be based off the new department head salary? That was the question asked to me, and I said I would ask. But like I said, maybe you're going to address that, and that will be answered for me later on.
Guess I'm open for input here. I don't know that we're sticking, or that the 85% rule, I don't know how that plays out as far as WIS recommendations.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like I said, don't wait till the end. I'll close here shortly if I'm not hearing a response.
Mark Sturtevant, Whitley County Maintenance, 101 West Van Buren Street. I had a couple questions there for clarification on the 2020 budget. Were there any reductions in the line item 36004?
What is that?
Building maintenance.
Okay, it looks like you had a budget last year. 2018, you spent $30,789, and this year's budget was for $85,000. You asked for $102,500 for roughly a 20.5% increase. Is that the line item you're speaking of?
36004.
Okay, I'm on 37004. So building maintenance,
Requested amount was 400.
434,694 for an increase of 690%. What did we decide on that? I don't have any markings here. What did we share with you?
You changed it to 230,000 and then said to put the rest in QM capital development.
230?
Yes.
Yeah, and make the rest available through QCAP, 210.
Yep, and then as those projects happen that you need to address, that money will come out of that for that purpose.
Do you foresee them being able to go forward with those then?
Tentatively?
Go forward with those?
Tentatively, I think that we, barring any additional information or issues that come up elsewhere, I think that our budget is going to be in a position next year where a lot of those maintenance issues should be looked at and addressed. Yes, I'm not going to tell you absolutely, but that's exactly why that money is being set aside in there, is for that purpose.
Correct. And then were there any changes made to 41001 under equipment?
I just changed it to 60.
Yeah, we cut that to 60,000, and I think I had a discussion with you on that. We cut that down to 60,000, not knowing what price you were going to pay for a vehicle and working on getting it on a state bid, and then exactly what equipment you need. So again, those funds would still be available. We'll make the commitment to making sure that it's equipped properly. Just having question marks there, we cut that portion down until we know those answers. So that's something you come back to us for, and it will be addressed at that point.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. E.J. Sigler, I'm the prosecuting attorney. I have a brief item on your agenda this morning. With your permission, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll go forward if that's all right.
We're still in the public hearing part for the budget.
Okay.
So if it pertains, if you want to,
Yeah.
you want to be involved in that, you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
This involves a budgetary request, a budgeting item. This is something of a unique circumstance for us. It's, I think, a bit of a miscommunication. I think all of you should have received an email. My office was working with a former county program director. We had made some staffing changes in our office. Tina Stinson, who had been our receptionist, had been accepted into IU's nursing program. Based upon the increase in our volume, we wanted to keep Tina as a part-time employee to kind of offset some of the volume we're experiencing. And I'll have a bit of a report on that in just a moment. But so in that vein, we hired someone to fill her spot, but then came to this body and sought approval to hire her back as a part-time employee. When we were negotiating that or working through those issues with the county, we had proposed a salary that this group accepted, but which Jan, I brought to our attention, exceeded the county's pay ordinance per hour for an employee, unbeknownst to us. That was the figure that we were given by the county. We operated on that figure. We extended a job offer based upon that figure, but then we found out after the fact and after this body had approved that request that we had exceeded the county's ordinance on hourly pay per employee. Again, this is a part-time employee, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenna, but I believe the county's pay ordinance caps payment at $17 an hour. And when we were doing the math, that issue never came up for us. And so we had submitted something to you for your approval that was inaccurate under the terms of that ordinance. I certainly don't want the county to do violence to that ordinance. I'm not asking you. But in order to cover that shortfall to the job that we'd extended and was accepted, I'm asking you to appropriate additional monies from my budget, not from county general, but from our internal funds to allow us to overcome that particular unique situation. We have worked diligently with Jana throughout the pendency of this particular matter in order to bring it to resolution. I think it's a fair resolution, has zero impact, uses zero taxpayer dollars, and simply allows us to right what would amount, in my view, to a wrong, not done intentionally, certainly, but a wrong nonetheless. And so that's what I'm asking for today. The total additional appropriation amount in the resolution and ordinance that we previously submitted is $11,120.
DJ, if I could, and I truly apologize, if I could just stop you right there. I do need to finish, this is this year's business. Our public hearing is for next year's budget. So I'm going to just stop you right there, and you're next, so we'll jump back in if I need to finish the public hearing.
I thought I was in the right place at the right time.
No, that's why I asked you. So just give us a few minutes to finish this up.
Don't let me prattle on. Don't let me prattle on like that. It's hard to stop a lawyer when he's rolling.
How do you stop a lawyer?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I thought you'd want to get that. I thought this was the appropriate time and place.
Yep.
I'll sit down and shut up. How would that be?
It would be tremendous. And pick any chair you like.
I'll sit down and shut up right floor.
So we are still in the public hearing part. We have not started the meeting yet. I would ask, is there anybody else that would like to come forward to speak on the public hearing, please? And if you need any guidance on whether or not actually your issue is for the public hearing or otherwise, I would be happy to answer those questions also. Last call. Hearing nothing further, we will close the public hearing. Well, before I close the public hearing, I would ask the board, is there anything that, reopen the public hearing. Is there anything that you have comments on or about or would like to add to the conversation? Okay, and hearing nothing there, I will close the public hearing at this point. Next item on the agenda, DJ Sigler, please.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to take any action in reference to this public hearing on what has been presented?
I don't think we need to at this point. We can talk about it. I think there's going to be some issues that we need to resolve that are going to be part of that as we go through the meeting here today, but we actually have probably another month before we have to finalize the budget. We can do that today at the council's wish, or that can be yet to determine at our October meeting. But I think there's some...
Your hearing includes solid waste.
Our hearing did include the solid waste. Yep.
Just want to get it on record.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Mr. Sigler, please. And don't feel the need to be so wordy as to reiterate everything you've already said.
I'm just going to go ahead and repeat my entire argument. I know Judge Rentschler and Judge Fall are often excited when I do something like that. But that's my situation, and that's what I'm asking your permission to do. And I would point out that state law permits this particular transfer and the use of these funds for this particular purpose under Indiana Code 333786. So the request is well within the law, and certainly we wouldn't have gone down this path had we had the correct information. Jana, please.
Well, and I was going to say, you guys have actually already approved the additional appropriation. The issue is when our previous HR sat down with Jenny, she gave her a part-time rate. That part-time rate was over the $17 an hour. So what we really need to do is, that money's already been appropriated, you guys already have it for your part-time person. I think what he needs is for you to say, yes, it's okay for them to pay her the wage above the $17 an hour for part-time. And you guys can look at it as a, per situation basis. So you guys do have the authority to say, yes, she was already a full-time person, she's been with us for, many years, I mean, and you guys, I know you guys are already thinking about changing it for next year anyway. This is just coming a little earlier than anticipated, so.
And never ask a lawyer to say something that a normal professional can say in 30 words or less.
DJ, we know you spend that money for a variety of things.
Yes, sir.
Without our approval, am I correct?
It is necessary that the law changed, I think in 2014, to require me to come, anytime I want to disperse funds from that particular account, I need to come and seek your input, and that's what I'm here today to do.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
knew that in the past that we didn't approve it.
It used to be that way, and I have prosecutors all across the state smile a little less now, but no, that is the case. That's the state of the law.
Well, it's really, we've had some discussions. I'm going to share with you where I'm at. We're trying to be very transparent to all county employees on what the expectation is, and that's really why we've kind of taken ourselves out of the equation and hired WIS to give us these evaluations. And I look at this issue from two different directions, and I think this is probably going to come down to a vote here, and one of them being that, we are going to move forward and change the ordinance, the salary ordinance, the maximum for next year under WIS's recommendations. I think we need to stick to those recommendations and what they're telling us as professionals, and then when we start making exceptions for particular wherever it's at, then that takes that level of transparency out of the equation as far as all county positions, departments, and employees. Now, on the other side of it, I would say it's just an exception that we could make and look at it because of the fact that it came and it was factored in before we've got this WIS report back, or do we go forward with the WIS report? This is our information, and this is where they're telling us it should be now. So we could, I think, if you, depending on what angle you looked at it, you could probably justify it. I just don't know what angle everybody's looking at it from up here.
And if I could address that?
Yes.
Question by question. I'm not familiar with the recommendations in the WIS report because I haven't seen it yet. And so I'm not going to speak to that because I don't.
180,990, I believe, are the numbers we originally came to the council with. There was budget information there, and we knew we were going to have a shortfall, and then the next column is the prices that were actually bid, and then a revised estimate for the entire project. So you see it's about $15,000 higher than when we were last at the council. So $1,195,000 versus $1,180,000. However, down in the funds section where we had the gift from Alan Fox, money that we were taking out of our rainy day fund, money from our gift fund, you'll see that there's two new items. We've received a $30,000 grant from the Whitley County Community Foundation, and we received a $30,000 grant from the DECO Foundation. So we're actually in better shape financially than we were the last time we came to the council. The project, at this point, we actually have taken the bids, and that's what's in the column there, revised the budget, and so now we have to come to you to adopt a new resolution. That resolution allows us to transfer the money we need to into a building fund, and as we promised the last time, we anticipate absolutely no increase in the property tax rate associated with this project. Now, there's a clarification there. We are regulated by the Department of Local Government Finance, and our budget is set, and each year they give us a quotient that we can increase the budget. We are going to take that budget increase, but we would have taken that budget increase regardless of this project. So that's where I'm saying this is not affecting the tax rate of the library by doing this project. Also in your resolution, you're authorizing us to borrow up to $300,000. Well, that's in lieu of a tax increase, and with our current budget restraints, we're confident that we can repay that money over a period of 5 to 7 years.
At your current tax rate?
Right. With the current budget that we have. there's a lot of things that go into calculating the tax rate, and I don't understand all of
I
them. but-
understand that.
Ice Miller actually recommended that I come here a month ago with information, but we were 1 week away from receiving the bids for the addition, and it made sense to me to delay. So when we were talking today, we weren't guessing at the largest portion of the project cost. So now that we have those, I mean, I'm even more confident that we are not going to have to affect the tax rate of the people of Cleveland or Richland Township or South Whitley or Larwell. So, here is the resolution. I guess we need you to please adopt the resolution and vote to approve that so we can continue to proceed with our project.
And this will be just like the last resolution we did. We just have to pass it. There's no, they don't come back on the council or the county if they don't meet their loans or anything. We just have, this is just a formality we have to do.
Well, the county would be responsible for the $300,000 loan if it wasn't paid back. That would, I mean, we're guaranteeing that as you being part of part of the county, right?
I don't know the answer to that question. That would be something I'd have to ask.
I say no.
No?
I say Cleveland and Richland Township, South Whitney and Norwell would be responsible for that.
So that would be a tax issue.
Just a point of clarification there. As part of the last presentation, we noted that after we transfer these monies and borrow, we are going to continue to have within the reserves of the South Whitley Community Public Library enough money to operate a budget for a full year. So we'd have to have half of our taxes not appropriated for us before we would start to start to get into financial trouble. So, I mean, we are a healthy organization financially.
What resolution number will that one be?
It's 2019-11.
Is council informed enough and confident enough to pass this resolution today, or would you guys like to table it and have the lawyer look at it before we pass it? Is this something that can wait a month?
I'm sorry to say that, but
Yeah.
we're operating under the direction of Ice Miller.
Let me know.
I think without having counsel here and having some questions myself, I would like to possibly, with the council's pleasure, table this and have legal look at it and address it at next month's meeting.
An additional point of clarification, on September the 16th, the contractor that was awarded the project is going to start the project. They're going to start digging the basement for the addition. And in just 2 more days, we're receiving the bids for the funding of the loan. So I don't know how that's going to affect things. I don't know, are we going to be in trouble if somebody starts digging a hole in the ground and we don't have the council's support? And I'm not trying to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. I just want to make sure we don't get in trouble.
How about if we approved it subject to the approval from the county attorney?
That's an option, yes.
That would work, wouldn't it?
Then I would, if we do approve it that way, I would ask you to make sure that you get any questions answered as far as this being approved, if it's necessary for you to start your construction part of it, and if that is indeed the case, that I think before September 16th, our legal counsel should have time to review this and put their opinion to it.
The last time I talked to the contractor, there's material coming in for the construction to start, but he believes that we could delay the digging of the basement about 2 weeks before he has to be concerned about weather and pouring concrete and those kind of things, so.
Well, we certainly don't want to cause a delay, especially with, getting into the time of the year when you don't know what other kind of delays you could have. But I would just say, at this point, and this isn't a negative towards you, sir, but a little bit of an issue with all of our people that get on the agenda, is that this information here, when you get on the agenda, this is the information that we want then 2 weeks in advance, because then we could have had this reviewed and not have to go the direction that we are now. And
Obviously, we're aware of that.
yep, and so just being on the agenda for a council meeting is still not the point of why we set that 2-week notice, as much as it is us having the information so we can do our homework and have this information vetted before we have to make a decision. This, why we're reluctant now, because none of us are attorneys, and we want to make sure that we're doing things in accordance with the law.
I understand that. I do believe that this information is very similar, as Tom said, to the information that was presented to the council originally, so.
Yep. And I
The
don't,
council would also have an opportunity to ask for a legal interpretation of this.
But the only difference is asking for an authorization to borrow $300,000.
Right.
And our lawyer will probably look at it within a week, I'm guessing, or will,
yep, don't know why you couldn't.
okay.
That's great.
So if somebody wanted to make a motion contingent upon the attorney's approval, that would be tremendous to add that into your motion.
I'll make a motion on Resolution 2019-11 to okay it, being our lawyer says it's fine. We're okay.
We have a motion. I'll call for a second, please.
I'll second.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the
Just a
vote.
point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
Was not the ordinance, the salary ordinance we adopted, 2019-11?
That's an ordinance, this is resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand, and opposed the same. Let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all board members present.
I think we should expedite our attorney looking at that. And then as soon as we get the green light, make sure that gentleman here in the South Whitley Library Board gets that information.
So will the attorney contact the library, or do I need to go contact the attorney in a week or two?
Jana will get the information to him today or tomorrow, so you and Jana just stay in touch. She'll either contact you or call her, and, is that right? You can do that? Okay.
And I think I have your email, I think. Is it online?
They have
Your
a card in
email?
my pocket.
Okay, I'll take that.
Gentlemen, thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it. It's a great project for the community, and
I agree.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, PNC equipment, please. Who's, Kim or John?
I have it. Was there, John, was there anyone coming to talk about it?
Since I missed the last meeting.
To shake it up.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. So hi, I'm John Myers, President of the Whitley County Economic Development Corporation. Our offices are at Suite 102, 220 West Van Buren Street here in Columbia City. This is a follow-up to the amendment that was presented last month. I wasn't here, I think Kennedy, St. George in our office. But essentially, it was cleaning up some paperwork with regard to an abatement that was previously granted to Micropulse last year. Because it was a leasing transaction versus an outright purchase, the abatement really flows to the owner of the property, which was the PNC leasing organization, which then leased it to Micropulse. So we had to add PNC leasing to the abatement original application and grant. The CF1 is just a follow-on to that. The council typically approves the CF1s for all of the abatements, say in June of the year, May or June, but because of this issue that had come up, everything got pushed back, so the filing of the CF1 got pushed back accordingly until after the change was made in the abatement. So this is the updated CF1 that PNC and Micropulse filed subsequent to that being approved.
So if council remembers back the line when you authorized me to review and sign all of those, that's essentially what we're here for now. We approved this last month. I just need your permission now from council by a motion and a vote that I sign it to document that it is in accordance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. Those opposed, the same. Let's show it was unanimous.
Thank you.
I got a question on what this is.
Next item we will look at is the longevity pay date. You all have a longevity sheet in your packet. They're asking for the longevity pay date to be administered on 11/26 of 19, and there's a breakdown on exactly where those monies will go and what the total is. If everybody had a chance to review that, and I would call for council's...
I've got a question on the front page down at the bottom. It includes prior years of full-time service. What's that, Jenna?
Oh, do you see up where those little asterisks are up by Jessica Hackemeyer?
Okay.
There was just an issue with her, I think a few years ago, where we found out that she had a little bit of a break in employment, but I can't remember exactly what happened, but it's just because something happened, and she needed to actually have
If we decide.
more than the years that we had on here for her. See, it says 10 years of service, but it's only $500. There's a reason for it. That's why there's the asterisk.
I'm not sure I understand that. Is that to be saying that she had a break in service?
Yeah.
See, you
And we're picking that up?
see,
Well-
you haven't got a year in yet, so you're minus.
Again, it was a couple of years ago.
Where's this
We never,
So she has 10 years of service in, but I think she went part-time for a while. She was full-time, became part-time for a while, and then went back to full-time.
So there's
So it
never...
had to restart. So that's why she only has 500. And that's why there's those next to it, because she's different than everyone else. She never broke her employment with the county, but she went
Never
full-time,
completely broke
part-time, to
service?
full-time. And as soon as you stop your full-time employment, you lose that, your service, and you have to start over when you can put on full-time again.
Yeah, I understand.
She
That
was
something I don't
a
think we ever addressed
special
before.
situation.
Yeah, there we go.
We did? When school was
Well,
in?
one of these, we had one not too long ago. We had one that quit and then come back. Can't think of what that person's name was. That lost it. The years of service because they quit and then they come back.
Right, it's a fresh start, yeah.
I don't think that's a particularly good idea, because part of the purpose of the longevity is keep people from quitting.
Well, it's to her disadvantage though, right?
Right.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not giving her
there's-
anything.
It's improving the date.
That's all.
I understand that, but that particular part, I think, is we shouldn't be doing.
What would you like to do? What would your proposal be?
I don't really have one. I thought we were breaking the proposal we had, that we had never paid. If somebody broke service, they started over.
She did.
And that's what this indicates.
Well, I didn't know I understood what she was telling me.
That's what I'm saying. If we were actually paying her for 10 years of service, it'd be a lot more than $500.
That would be 1,300? Is that what you have wrote in there?
No,
No, that's
that's
the
the
total,
11, or the
yeah.
1222, yeah.
It's an explanation on why she's not being paid a greater amount. We're not paying her a greater amount. It's an explanation on why she's not being paid a greater amount.
But we're giving her credit for years of service when she was part-time, but not towards the longevity. That's okay, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so we're back to then, I would call for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve the longevity pay date 11/26/19.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it shown that it's passed unanimously to set that as the pay date.
Yeah.
Whitley County payroll schedule for 2020. You have that in front of you. I'd ask for council's wishes to approve this for the pay schedule for 2020, please.
Yeah, well, do we need to do all three of them? Can we do them individually?
Is there 3 pay schedules?
We've got the 2020 accounts payable schedule, payroll schedule, and meeting schedule.
Yep, I'd like to do them separately, please.
I make a motion, we approve the 2020 accounts payable schedule.
May I hear a second, please?
Second.
Councilman Overdeal with the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and it was passed unanimously. Call for a motion on the Whitley County payroll schedule for 2020, please.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. On the 2020 meeting schedule for Whitley County Council, if council would so be in favor of, I would like to table that till next month and have some discussion on possible changes or tweaks to our schedule for next year before we set this in place, and then essentially just have to make a change to it. Would that be acceptable? If not, I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make a motion at this point. Okay, we will table that until next month. I'll call for a motion to table, please.
So moved.
Second, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand, and those opposed, the same, and it was passed unanimously to table it to next month's meeting. Does the council wish to, we have our deadline, Janet, is October meeting, October 2nd,
No, it'd be
October 9th, right?
9th, yes. I believe so.
So our council meeting in October would be the 9th, and we do have time to wait until that date to set our budget?
I think we probably should set a date before that to work it out and not wait till the 9th. Because we have to approve it on the 9th, so we to approve it or don't approve it. Seems to me like we ought to meet before that and iron out any problems we have before we get there.
Well, and that's what I was going to bring up as far as right now. I mean, we're here, we're in a meeting, and if there's anything that we need to iron out, I would encourage us to do that now. My information that I was going to provide is that we have until the 9th, or if council is prepared to move forward today on setting the budget, we can do that. And we also need to look at the recommendations from WIS and how we want to move forward with that. We need to also discuss any type of a pay increase that we would give next year for county employees, and then also we need to discuss and set a new salary ordinance for part-time employees. So those are some issues that we can get hammered out today, or talk about today, or approve today, but knowing that we have to have it done before the October 9th meeting. So this would be a good time, the 8th? Yep, because it wouldn't be the Wednesday, it would be the Tuesday. So October 8th. That's why that circle's on it, I bet.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is this an issue that can be discussed in executive committee so that we can process together?
we can discuss it, we just can't make a decision in an executive meeting. Absolutely.
I think there are so many different options here that would be valuable just to brainstorm a little bit about how to put the pieces together. Just a thought.
Janet, can you just maybe give us an update on the advertising that you have done on the budget, where we're at, and how that would affect then our county general moving forward to next year?
Okay, so I met with DLGF and I moved everyone to the external midpoint and gave everyone a 3% raise. And obviously I advertised everything at the max amount. When I met with DLGF, we are able to fund that. If everything that we went over, we're able to fund all of the funds that we have. If we go with that, we'll have just over $1 million operating balance. So if we go with the 3% and the external midpoint.
And I think probably, at this point, I don't know what we would have to discuss as far as the budget that we put together. We made our cuts, we re-talked, or had conversations with the department heads, even this morning, as far as any changes or questions about that.
Can I specify? I'm sorry, I'm going to specify really quick that the little over $1 million is just county general. Because I know that's the one you guys are most concerned about.
What do they recommend we have for an operating budget in county general?
At least $1 million. So.
And we've come from 2 years ago when we were around was it 400,000?
Just under 400,000.
$400,000 when they were encouraging us to get that to the $1 million. So, and that $1 million is if we go to the external midpoint plus a percentage raise, a 3% raise across the board. So it was advertised very high. Of course, whatever we don't do there is going to add to that county general. And as we've all looked at before, the external midpoint is a significant amount of commitment from what we have used or as a number of, as far as compensation to give in previous years towards raises. And the WISP part of it is not by any means to be considered a raise as much as a job reclassification.
I would be reluctant to add a 3% to people who are having a significant job reclassification, just to be a bit more conservative, because we're going to constantly be increasing that annually. And every time we get a reevaluation of the job classifications, those base salaries are going to go up too. As I looked over some of the possible proposals, most county employees who get a job reclassification would get at essentially almost 3% increase through the job reclassification. To add an additional 3%, I just question the necessity of that right now. So I would ask that we consider job reclassification, and those who are not reclassified receive a 3% increase to kind of split the difference.
I would like to make sure that we're making, when we're talking, we're talking about the same things. And when you talk about a 3% increase, and I appreciate the fact that you did the math and those numbers kind of align, but we're not talking about a raise or an increase when we're talking about WIS's recommendations for our job classification and compensation project. That should be a separate conversation. Both conversations can happen right here, but it needs to be a separate conversation, and understood that job reclassifications and meeting our standards of what WIS has recommended be a complete separate issue and not considered a raise. It's considered job reclassifications, and I think we need to be very clear on that to make sure that there's no misconception about that being considered a cost of living raise or any other sort of across-the-board raise, as much as it is taking into account. And I think we've got a unique opportunity here in the fact that WIS has done this study for us after many years of not being involved with them and taking their recommendations. They have done that reclassification study. They have done the information gathering on what those positions are paid. They have done the homework on gathering all the information and making sure all our people are classified properly. They've taken all of those things into consideration this year, along with cost of living. So that what these numbers that we're looking at with this recommendation from WIS is real-time information. If we put that back a year or do a portion of it now and want to do a portion of it next year, then we're taking exactly that information, as you suggested, that is very relevant and very timely right now, and it's going to be skewed a little bit going into next year. So I think that we need to maintain our transparency throughout the county, and the fact that we spent good money on these classifications, these job evaluations, and that we use that information. We've been tasked with using that information. We ourselves got out of this position of trying to evaluate these positions and what they should pay, and these are the experts, and I'm not calling them an expert. I think anybody that would look into it would agree.
I wholeheartedly support bringing all employees to the external midpoint.
So let's look at it as a separate issue then. It was advertised in the way Jana explained it to us as far as what she advertised for. She lumped it together, but we're going to separate it. We're not going to talk about any type of a raise right now. We're going to talk about the reclassification. So you've made that point, and I want to support the fact that that is what we're talking about, is WIS's recommendations on what positions should be paid and the adjustment to those positions. So that kind of opens the door to our discussion on that, and let's have some more discussion here.
I'm looking at several different options on it, but I would be in favor of the external midpoint and 2% in addition to that.
On that,
So again, let's set two
different issues.
Two different issues.
I'm in support of the external midpoint of WIS's recommendation at this point.
we've got a number on that total cost, haven't we, John?
That was the number that was the 440,000 and some odd dollars.
That's the midpoint.
That's the external midpoint, yes, sir. And that was all encompassed in the numbers that Jana advertised for and what she's sharing with you as far as what our operating capital would be for county general.
Yeah, so for county general, that increases 191,652.
Right, that entire amount does not come out of county general. You're exactly correct.
Do you want me to? Yeah, so if, for the external mid, for just county general, it'd be $140,724.66. For every fund, it would be a total of $404,988.12. Hang on. I think I just told you the wrong thing.
Yeah, that doesn't add up.
Yeah, I did, sorry. That was the 3%, actually. That was the 3%, sorry. So the external mid total for all of them, not the difference, just the total, would be $4,690,882. Again, that's all everyone's salary.
Oh, the
For county
total.
general. The
Gotcha.
total salary for everyone for county general. And then overall salary for everyone would be $13,523,688. And that's in all funds.
Those numbers don't really mean that much to me as much as the difference does. Do you have that number?
Yeah.
Not that I don't appreciate those numbers, it's just, I'm not,
Tiffany made me a lot of different spreadsheets, so I just need to find the one that I need.
I've got that spreadsheet right here.
Okay, good.
And it's the 191,652 is the difference.
Okay, thank you.
Out of county general.
Right.
And then the total would be 529,095.
That's a significant amount of money in 1 year. Very significant to get us to the external midpoint. Probably as much as we've dedicated to that category in the past, or the compensation levels. And I think that's a direct reflection of the fact that we've got a lot of positions that weren't being fairly compensated. Which leads me back to what I've already said about the fact that it's real-time information if we act on that this year and get everybody brought to the point of recommendation by WIS. So
I believe to piecemeal that out over years, our information just becomes stale. So we should get there in one step. Are you ready for a motion or not?
I would entertain a motion.
I would move that, based on the recommendations of WIS, we bring all county employees to at least the external midpoint. Caveat being we have some that are already over external midpoint, and we don't want to imply that we're lowering them.
And I appreciate you adding that part to it, that no employees that are over the external midpoint would be affected by that decision to bring everybody to the external midpoint.
I will second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second. I will call for further discussion. Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of raising the job classification and compensation as recommended by WIS to the external midpoint, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. And let it be shown it was passed unanimously. So then, related directly to that, if we could then, let's talk about the pay scale and setting a new ordinance for part-time employees, which is currently capped at $17. I would share with you to cover all part-time employees to the external midpoint, it would take a cap of, share with me, the courthouse employees, I know it's 25 something, I think it's just over $25, which is again, a big jump, but understand that just because we provide the opportunity for that to be there, it still has to come from the department head. So we're not approving those raises, we're approving the scale and the ability for them to pay them at the external midpoint also.
Our range at this point is 12 to 17, or does it start out lower?
We don't have a low end, we just have the max.
Just a max of 17?
Everybody does. We did have a range.
If we was to go, what's our highest part-time? 19 something now? That's being paid in the health department?
Well, it's not over 17, the 17
Yeah, it
is the
is.
cap.
We got one that's higher. That was part-time?
Link or just the immunization clerk? She's not at 19. No, that person's gone. That used to be Mary Ann.
Okay.
Now it's a full-time position.
Okay. But what, you remember what she was making at the time?
It was 22 actually.
22?
Pretty good money for part-time.
Yeah.
Do you have a sheet that says the proposal for part-time? I don't either. It's back, it's way back.
Okay, the highest one that we can identify is 2248 is what we would need to bring it to, just to make sure that everybody can get to the external midpoint.
That was,
Even that's pretty good wage for part-time help.
It is.
I'd be more in favor of $20 an hour than I would 22.
didn't let that part of it.
And the only issue that I would have with that, Kim, is that we're kind of deviating from WIS and what their recommendation is for that position. So I think it's something that can be addressed by the department head, or even still, there's another level of implementing it.
So all we're doing is setting the range, and it's up to the elected official or department head to come in with those requests, and then it's up to us whether they approve it or not.
Yes.
And a max range of 25 would be more than sufficient.
And I misspoke when I said that 25, the actual number is 2248, so that's still, there's still some leeway there. If you wanted to lower the leeway or leave it there, that would be up to whoever made the motion.
The advantage of the 25 is that we don't have to readdress this annually, because part-time don't automatically get a cost of living if we vote that, do they?
They do not get a raise if they're over that.
I'd be in favor of being consistent with the recommendations from WIS, and so I'd be more inclined to support this if we stuck with that $22.48 as the new cap. I'd also like to see some sort of criteria established for a department head to follow before they start raising. And I don't know if that's something that WIS can help Ed and the commissioners establish for the department heads to follow. But I would feel much more comfortable if there was an established criteria for department heads to be able to raise.
I second that motion.
Is that a motion?
I'd be happy to make that a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
I'm just providing input. But I will state that in the form of a motion. I do move that we increase the cap, the maximum amount for part-time employees from $17 to $22.48. And along with that motion, I ask that we work with our commissioners and HR director, along with WIS, to establish criteria that needs to be met in order for a department head to increase their employees from the rate that they're currently. And that's my motion.
That I second.
So we do have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be shown that was passed unanimously also with all members present. Okay, so that takes care of two of the issues. Then we have left on the table then any rate of increase for next year. Is that something we're prepared to talk about now, or do we want to have discussions and settle that at the next month's meeting?
And some of the information that I received, like going with the external midpoint on it, we have probably 9 to 11 employees that is not affected by this. I think we probably should look at maybe compensating them with a 2% cost of living increase. Is that correct with my numbers, Janet?
Some of them were part-time,
Okay.
but it's pretty.
between 9 and 11.
So part-time would be covered under the,
New,
Yeah,
that
that'd
you just did.
my concern, and I will share that the fact that the amount that we are using to get everybody to that external midpoint is not only an indication that they were below, but then these other positions factored out above. And as was made in the motion, and we've had discussions on before, we're not about to lower those people who came in over what WIS's recommendations were. We're certainly not going to lower anything, but I don't feel as much of a need, especially with what we're investing in the county to get them to that external midpoint, to feel myself that a 2% raise would be necessary in order to remain consistent, because I think what we would be doing by giving those positions an increase would offset what we're trying to do as far as getting everybody to that external midpoint to have all our positions being fair. I think we're being fair by allowing those not allowing, but stating that we're leaving those.
External midpoint, and that's it. The cost of living raise.
Well, we're making a pretty big jump and committing, probably as much, if not more, to changes as we have in previous years.
Janet, do you have any idea how many people that would affect? And what position would it be?
Hang on, I'm counting. More than what I thought, I suppose.
If, I would be more inclined to go along with your line of reasoning if it was a certain amount raised giving to all employees based on cost of living, and not just to single out those particular positions, because they are already over what WIS says they should be. And then when we start then doing that, I would refer back to the fact that the information that we're using from WIS takes that cost of living and everything into consideration, and that's why I really urge that we do that this year. Well, it's all real-time information, all provided this year, all taken into account this year, and in my mind, that kind of gets us on a level playing field using the information that we paid for.
So by going with external midpoint with WIS, we're covering 98% approximately of our employees.
It affected about 98% of the job reclassifications, yes.
28.
We didn't let it affect the other ones, and I think that should be considered and looked at that way also. 28 of them, 28 positions.
So the WIS picture that we have right now, was it for 2019, or was that for 2020 and would have factored in any cost of living?
I wondered about that too. I don't know.
Well, it factors in where things are at when they did the study. There were no projections involved
For 2020.
with that, but it's as close to real information as we're going to get, unless we try to decide again that we're smarter than WIS, and that's what really got us away from getting back involved with them in the first place, is that we just got to a point to where we're not capable of managing it the way it should be managed, and we're making a commitment. And we've made a commitment, we've already approved that. But I just don't want to get that convoluted in the fact that when we start talking about cost of living raises, I mean, it's probably not truly been taken into consideration, but it's certainly not left out when they're giving us real-time information. This isn't a study that was done 2 years ago that we're just getting around to act on. It was done this year and presented to us this year.
If we considered the proposal of a 2% just for people who were not affected by the reclassification, In county general, that's $14,073.21. And for the entire budget, it's $37,000, $433.16.
But that's given, again, a 2% increase to a position that was just factored out to be being paid over market value right now.
And furthermore, that will skew your numbers moving forward. You'll start to increase, the people who are already being paid over external midpoint will continue to be paid over external midpoint, while the rest of them are just at. They will just meet the external midpoint. So you're,
At this point, we either consider a 2% cost of living raise or not.
I think it needs to be across the board if it's,
Across the board.
yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
To not jeopardize or to skew the information that WIS has given us, we can't just look at a certain group of employees. We've got to look at it across the board.
And there's sufficient money within the 2020 budget to do this.
Yes. Yes.
And the advertised was 3%.
Next year.
Yes.
We can do 2%. because
And
that's-
what would be the, and again, if we're talking about a cost of living increase, and we're talking about compensating an employee just because of the fact that they are an employee of Whitley County in good standing and in full-time employment, I would encourage council to take into consideration that cost of living is the same for everybody. And I would encourage you to not look at a percentage raise as an amount raise across the board for all county employees rather than doing a percent, because that percent is based on everybody's individual percent, and that continues to, I think, skew that number and create separation when we're talking about a raise that is simply giving because they're an employee here, and it's not based on evaluations, it's not based on performance, it's not based on attendance, it's not based on lack of attendance, it's not based on anything other than the fact they're an employee. So I struggle with, I struggle with percentage increases if we talk about an increase, as much as I would like to see us figure out a dollar amount to give rather than a percent.
To be more comfortable with a factual figure rather than a percentage.
Yes. I think it's more, more of a fair way to address a cost of living raise.
What did you do last year?
Last year, we gave an across-the-board dollar amount raise.
Dollar amount instead of percentage?
Yes.
But it went into the, didn't it end up in the hourly rate then? Janet? Yeah, we give them the X amount of dollars. It was just supposed to be a,
That was the year before.
it was just gonna be a cost of living.
Yeah, it ended up being the
It
same
ended up being a
thing.
raise for them.
Yes. Because we had that thing with the pace, with the
How
number
many
pace.
full-time employees do we have?
That's right.
250.
About 250. The,
Maybe that's everyone. Maybe it's more like 170. Sorry.
okay. If it was the 2% figure that we had originally talked about, that total is 270,467. So what would that be divided by all of our full-time employees? Or we could even do with the, if it's the 3% number, it actually goes up to 404,000, almost 405. To get,
Difference between 250,000 and 270,000?
between 250.
Yeah, if you give $1,000 across the board, it'd be 250,
Yeah.
250,000. All right?
Yeah, that'd be approximately the 2%.
Yeah.
It'd be $1,000 a person.
What dollar amount are you thinking?
I'm really tickled to death. I'm happy, very satisfied that the council has moved forward with getting every employee to that external midpoint. I mean, that's tremendous. And and we've taken that information, again, I don't want to be redundant here, from Wes, and we've applied it, and that's a large chunk of money. It's $440,000. And that's as much as we've used before as far as making these decisions. So, I don't know that I'm in favor of a raise on top of that as much as I am that I think we've done a lot as far as making that commitment, and that's really why I wanted to get it all done in 1 year. So then we can move forward next year with looking at what we have available and what we can do with it. So my opinion is that that's quite a bit right there, but it's certainly a council decision on going above just what we did as far as reclassifying positions. Don, is there anything that you'd like to add here? I know that you guys, the commissioners made a recommendation, but how does, I don't remember exactly what that is. But feel free to jump in.
I think you're doing great work. You're doing super work. But I'll be honest with you, I'm really concerned about those who are above the midpoint and they're going to get squat. I believe they should get a 3% raise.
I agree with Don to a point. They should get a raise. I don't know if 3%'s a magic number or not, but they should get a raise.
The gross quotient, what was the gross quotient this year? 3.4, 3.5%. So, I mean, I think it falls in that range.
But I do understand Thor's thinking as well as the emotion that it needs to be consistent, whether you got a job reclassification or not. You can't just select employees to receive cost of living and not others because of the long-term principle.
What we need to keep in mind is that the compensation that all but 28 employees are going to get with this job reclassification is not a raise.
Right.
It's not a raise.
It's just correcting what we haven't done in the past year.
If you wanted to look at it to that extent, I would say that someone could come up with the argument of, well, I was being underpaid market value all this time, I need to be compensated, I want retro paid for that. It's the same mindset to me as far as the people that come in over the top of what was calculated their positions at, saying that, oh, it's not fair, I'm not receiving any kind of a raise. Well, the job reclassifications, let's be very clear, are not raises. They're job reclassifications, and then meeting the market value of what we paid for from WIS to tell us, are we paying our employees fairly compared to like positions? So we're not giving them raises, we're reclassifying and setting the levels of compensation for their positions. So, moving forward, if we want to look at a raise, it cannot just be for a certain amount, because then we're just ruining all the information and the good work we just did by getting everybody to the external midpoint. We're actually skewing that, we're changing it. We're giving them a raise and we're not giving the other people a raise. So it's just, it's not fair.
I understand this right. The information we got from WIS is 2 years old?
No, it's as new as we're ever going to get.
Right.
It's as fresh and current and as we're ever going to get, John. I mean, it's why I'm excited about the fact that we've committed to getting to the external midpoint. Yeah, it would, thank you. It would be considered a new base salary. It's not what we did with the job reclassification information, is setting a new base salary. It's not considered giving a raise. Let's make that quite clear.
It will be to the guy who gets his check, though. Look, I got a raise. No matter what we call it, they're gonna call it a raise.
But it's important to make the distinction, though.
Yeah.
The intent is not, is the job reclassification and the new base salaries.
But I do also think that the intent of the WIS report isn't that the external midpoint become our max and we keep people at whatever they're at until they come to
the scale is just there. We're just making the choice to raise everyone to that point. So the information is still there. And that's something that, you know, as time goes on, that we have also made a commitment to stay involved with WIS for not only reevaluating positional changes throughout the county, but also moving forward on staying with what the standard is for employee retention and be fair to our employees on their base salary. And I think that's what we lost sight of before when we had them do this work for us. We thought maybe we were going to be able to move forward and make those decisions ourselves, and I think that's where we made some mistakes, and now we're moving to correct that situation. And we've done a tremendous job of getting it corrected.
We've done this before.
Yep.
And didn't stick with it.
Yep.
Which was the problem.
So help me understand, with the 3.4, 3.5 is the standard now for cost of living of what has been projected.
No, I don't want to misunderstand. The 3.4 is what the state of Indiana, every year the state of Indiana tells the auditors, you can raise your max levy by.
Oh.
Okay?
So that's not the federal.
No, it's just
report
saying you
cost.
can have that
Okay.
much new money.
Never mind. That just makes my whole question mute.
You know, in the external, when we're comparing with external, I get to wonder sometimes whether we've taken into account some other things. For instance, in the external market, you take a job and you may keep it and you may get laid off. If you're working for government, you're not going to get laid off. That's not a dollar and cents thing, but that's a perk to the job. We have, I think, very liberal days off, but you take 13 days off a year. I don't think you're going to find that very much in industry over and above your vacations. I'm just, what I'm saying is, there are a lot of perks, I think, to working for government, like kind of government that you're not going to find in the outside world. Now, that's not dollars and cents, but it's reasons for keeping your job, so that's worth something. And I don't think that probably wasn't taken into account, and I don't know how you would, but it's a thought that crossed my mind.
And I appreciate that statement, and again, there, you know, I would say as a council, we don't offer it as a guarantee that no county employee would ever lose their job if things really went downhill and we had to cut budgets, but it's never been done, and I think that sets a precedent.
From a standpoint, once you're employed in Whitley County, unless you mess up, you're not going to lose your job.
And I think if you look at the raises that we have given, just in the last 2 years that I've been involved in the process, have been good raises. They've outpaced.
And we've done that in the past. We've had, we've never been real far off, I don't think, from at least compared to the internal. But I'm not suggesting any change, I'm just saying that's some of the things that involved in whether we keep employees or not.
Yep.
To kind of summarize this on it, I'm going to make a motion, it may die for lack of a second, but I'll make a motion that we compensate in a COLA type action each employee of Whitley County $1,000.
I have a motion on the floor to give us a raise to all employees in the amount of $1,000.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Any further discussion on that?
Is that dollar figure a raise in their wage? Or just a one-time $1,000?
One-time $1,000.
So it's not in the wage?
Does not affect their compensation
Pay
rate.
what they're getting.
According to the Federal Retiree COLA Watch, which is not official, they are anticipating that the COLA is going to be 1.7%. So actual expenditure increases in people's cost of living is 1.7%. So $1,000 is pretty generous. If you were making $100,000, that'd be 1%. Just information.
Yep.
Okay, well, since we're talking about WIS's recommendations and everything and going over everything, this kind of goes back to what Kim said earlier about the 85% with the chief deputies. If you guys do a flat rate to give to everyone, then that completely eliminates the 85% of the chief deputy. That's why they did percentages in the past, because they went with what you guys, whoever was on the council, went with WIS's recommendations of the 85% for the chief deputy, and then the percent didn't mess with that because they both got the same percent increase. So for chief deputies, they're going to be a completely different, I guess, special situation on their own, because if you give them $1,000 raise, they aren't necessarily making the 85% of the elected official's salary any longer, if that makes sense.
So you're saying that we would have to go back and redo the salary ordinance that pertains to 85%?
You guys already rescinded that a long time ago. It's no longer in existence.
That's what I thought.
What WIS is recommending now is to go back to that 85%. So if you guys choose to do that, $1,000 raise, it's gonna, yes, Scott?
For all contents, the difference between ordinance narrows each time you get a base number instead of a percentage. Percentage keeps that distance between subordinate and director at a certain level, whereas if you give it just an amount, it shortens that every time.
It doesn't ever shorten the amount. It might be a short in percent, but when we talk about giving across-the-board raises for cost of living based on the fact that you're an employee and it's not based on any type of evaluation, I'm a proponent of the fact that, the cost of living, as far as a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas or a new pair of trousers, is the same for any employee.
Do we know, does the WIS recommendation with the external midpoint equate to that 85%?
I am 99.9% sure that it does. That's why the chief deputies got the raises, is because it moved them up to the 85% of the elected official's salary. Because that's all they have to go off of, based on the 2019 salary.
So that rule is not in place because we took it out of there, but then that would be a good example, whether it's this year if we decide to do something, or next year if we decide to do nothing here, that we would have to have an explanation on that and why we're deviating from that part of WIS.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you go right ahead.
Have we seen that recommendation in writing from WIS?
Yes.
That we increase?
Yes, and it also even says in here that, because I questioned, Chief Deputy Sheriff, and it says in here that he is a special situation, and because of the amount of the sheriff's salary, it's right here. They actually have, chief deputies, chief deputy sheriff. It says the chief deputy position, sheriff position is recommended as a special occupation. However, it is not recommended that the compensation be tied directly to that of the sheriff's salary, and that sheriff's salaries are uniquely negotiated with the sheriff. As an alternative, it is recommended that the position be compensated at the external midpoint, which is a direct job match to the other sheriff chief deputy salaries included in the salary analysis. But it does say up above that, chief deputies to elected officials are recommended as special occupations. It is recommended that the compensation for chief deputies of elected officials be tied directly to that of their elected official. The salary provided on the pay plans represents 85% of the 2019 elected official's salary.
So we're already going to pay for some contact with WIS. Should we ask the question, are they essentially recommending that if we make increases annually, that it be percentage-based as opposed to dollar amounts?
What we do for those particular positions, absolutely.
And then that causes us to change the way we're trying to make every consistency across the board.
If that's how we choose to do it, I mean, there's, there's different train of thoughts on it, there's different avenues, there's different ways we can do it. That's just, I mean, that's a belief I have.
And that's all with staying within their recommendations. We have options for this to do it differently because they're special occupations.
So I do have a motion on the floor, and I have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Well, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. And it dies 5-2, or it's voted down 5-2. Would there be any other motions on that issue today? Hearing no other motions on that issue, does the council choose to move forward into address setting the budget for this year? Or for next year, doing it at this time? I don't think there's any other details to work out, are there?
Well, I don't have a final, because it depends on what you guys, I don't have a final number to give you, I guess is what I'm
Okay.
saying, for just the.
So you could prepare that, and we'll do that next month's meeting? Very good. Well, Don, we finally made it to you for your commissioner report, please.
Well, I want to thank George for asking me to sit in on the longest council meeting in the history. George, we'll get a phone call later today sometime. No, I love the way you guys deal. It's a great job. You do a great job, and it's a hard job, I know it is. Okay, I won't make it very long. Cindy Doolittle came to us with the polling locations in Whitley County. There's only really 2 polling locations. South Whitley, they have 3 districts, but 1 location, that's the church in South Whitley. They have a town board election and a town clerk treasurer. And then here in Columbia City, I believe there's just 1 council person election, maybe 2, but there was only a couple of different polling places. Amy Biggs brought Dan Monaco in to meet us. Dan is the new deputy director of EMA. I personally think a great choice. Dan actually has a master's degree in emergency management, and he is also, and I get this messed up, my son doesn't like me to screw it up. When it comes to hazmat, he's the highest level. He's a technician, so he doesn't have the 8 or the 16-hour class. He has a 40-hour class, and going to be a great guy. We signed a broadband-ready community designation ordinance. Doesn't mean a darn thing other than it tells anybody that would be interested in bringing high-speed internet to Whitley County, we want it, and we can be ready for it. Brandon gave us a highway department update, and then we also have the agreement for the Branch Court property. We just haven't had an opportunity to sign it yet. We also dealt with the 2020 schedules like you did, and the claims and the minutes, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, Chad, you were there. You should have.
I was there. I
Did I
couldn't get
miss
your
anything?
report. That was it. You did well.
Any questions? Okay, at this time, I would ask, has the council had a chance to look over the minutes from last month's meeting, and are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were presented to you?
I'll make a motion that we approve as read.
Have a motion, a second, please?
Second.
Motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand.
One abstention.
And opposed, the same. And Councilman Comfer is an abstention. Councilman Barrett.
I have nothing.
Councilman Overdeer. Councilman Comfort.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Warner. Councilman Wheeler. Vice Chair Banks.
Nothing.
I have nothing. Meeting is adjourned at 10:12.
Till they-